morning, good morning. It is Tuesday morning, the first day of my second weekly vlog. I am at the back of the house at the moment and the sun hasn't come round, so it's still quite cool out here. I'm going to be sowing some beans today. I sowed some in early March. Didn't have the best germination rate from them. I think that was my fault rather than the seed's fault. So I'm going to give them another go today. The two I'm going to be sowing are Greek Gigantes and the Violetta climbing French beans. This is the French bean variety. I grow these every year. They're a fantastic purple pod. They look beautiful when they're growing because the flowers are purple and the pods are purple. The stems are purple, but the leaves are a really fantastic glossy dark green, and they're a really fantastic tasting bean. They do lose their colour when you cook them. They don't stay purple, but they don't go a bright green like a normal French bean. They're a really like an inky black green. They're really beautiful. The other bean that I'm going to be sowing are Greek Gigantes, which are actually a variety of runner bean, but as opposed to a runner bean that normally grows sort of long and straight and then you eat the whole thing including the pod, these grow in a kind of a gnarly shape, curl at the bottom, and you let them dry out. And they produce these sort of big white beans inside, which you then cook like butter beans. They get massive when they're cooked and they're absolutely delicious. I'm going to be growing them both up arches, like I said earlier. All my beans are up arches this year. The Greek Gigantes will go on an arch with the Bolotis because they're both beans for drying, and the French beans are going to go up an arch. So the purple French will go up an arch with the Taiwan bean, which is a green French bean. So that should look quite beautiful. The Taiwan has got white flowers and the Violetta have got purple, so that should be a really nice contrast. Okay, the system I'm going to be using is root trainers. And root trainers are a type of pot that allows your seedling to have a really good, long, strong root, deep, that when you can take them apart, you open the whole thing, you slide the whole lot out so there's no root damage. I always use them for legumes. So that's your peas, your mange too, and all your bean varieties. They really appreciate having that depth of root system. And they really don't like being disturbed when you're kind of wiggling them around trying to get them out of a normal pot or a plug system. So these work really well. One thing about them is that they do take a lot of compost. Something that's quite handy about growing in the really tiny little plugs is that you can just whack in a bit of compost. The plant's in there for a very short amount of time and they go. Whereas using the root trainers, it feels like you're filling them up for about 20 minutes before you've actually got enough compost in there, but it is worth it in the end. So I'm just going to do that now. Considering I had such poor germination with the first lot, I'm going to sow quite a lot of these. I've got, I'm going to sow another 9 of each. So that's that one, and then I've got 2 on the end for spare. I'm not sure what I'm going to plant in there yet. There's always something. Done. I'm going to give them a good water. I've got 21 more slots in there for something else that I haven't decided on yet. I do have some courgettes that could probably go in there, so I might give that a go. Other than that, I'm probably going to spend the rest of my day potting on the myriad of seedlings that I've got in here that are in too small a pot. So that's going to be my afternoon. See you tomorrow. What day is it? Wednesday. It's Wednesday morning, and I'm going to do a bit of seed sowing this morning. This is papalo. So I absolutely love coriander. I know some people can't stand it and think it tastes like soap, but I really like it. But I can't grow it for love nor money. So last year I got hold of some papalo seeds from the Real Seed Company, which do fantastic, quite unusual seeds. Anyway, I'll read you the description of it. It says, an annual herb up to 4 foot tall, distinctive, spicy, sharp flavour used like coriander leaves. Right. So it is a Mexican, South American herb. I got hold of these really quite late last year, and I did sow them. They certainly didn't get to 4 foot. They got to about this big before the weather got cold, but it did mean that I got to taste them, and they were really, really delicious. It was like coriander and black pepper. So yeah, I'm quite excited about these. They're actually really interesting looking little seeds. Can you see that? I get close. Ooh, it's got a little fanfare. You can see how easily they'd be picked up and taken by the wind. In fact, sowing them, they are blowing all over the place. Something else that I'm going to be sowing today is chervil and dill. The classic time to sow chervil. I think normally you sow it sort of in autumn to go through the winter, or in autumn and then harvest it late winter, but I'm just going to give it a go and see how it does. I mean, it was so delicious last year. Whether or not it gets massive, or we'll just eat it. Be lovely. The other one that I'm sowing, the dill, I don't need half as much as that. They get huge dill plants. We had great success with dill last year actually, and then it flowered beautifully afterwards, and we used it for cut flour. So this is a cracker, but you don't need too much of it. So I'm going to use a smaller tray for this. So I'll just give them a water and put them in the greenhouse, and we'll see what happens. It's bloody hot in there today actually, so I hope it's going to be alright for them. It is Thursday morning, and I'm going to be planting out my Monge 2 this morning. They're a fantastic variety called Golden Sweet, which are a kind of a pale pink mauve flowered pea with a really fantastic bright yellow Monge 2 pod. Absolutely lovely looking plant. I'm going to grow it up this TP next to the tall telephone peas, which I've never grown before, but they should grow well together. I started the seed off in the root trainers as their legumes. Like I said earlier, you can see how they work. Really strong top growth, good looking roots, and then I'll just slide this out. This compost was slightly crumblier than I would have liked, so it's falling apart a bit, but it should be absolutely fine if I firm it in nicely. Couple more peas than I have canes, so I'm just going to double up a couple. Shouldn't make any difference to the peas whatsoever. As they grow, I'll wind string around the whole structure so they won't have to go up in a straight line anyway. To get them started, I will have to tie them on first off so they don't just flop all over the ground. You want to, it's a difficult balance. The string has to be tight enough that it stays, where it is and doesn't just slip down and snap the plant itself, but loose enough that the plant is totally free within the ring and can find its own way. I'll just tie the rest of these in and then we're done. Friday, and I'm going to be measuring up for the raised beds that are going to go in the poly house. I ordered the wood and it arrived yesterday, so that was pretty exciting. We didn't actually know how long it was going to take to arrive because obviously everything's in lockdown at the moment, so we're a bit unsure about that, but it has arrived yesterday. So today I'm just going to measure it all up. Where I've built the polytunnel, we had a classic roundy polytunnel for 3 years. As with everything that I build, it's a bit kind of make it up as you go along, because I tend to be using reclaimed wood. The majority of this poly house was wood that I found, well, it was being thrown away at work and they were just waiting for it to be picked up by the binman. So I took it instead, which was really fantastic. So we've got the main frame in. The reason that we're going for raised beds, so previously in the polytunnel we have used quite large green pots, but for a number of reasons that's not so good. The smaller the amount of soil that they're in, obviously the more irregular the watering is going to be. If you can give them the biggest amount of soil, you can pack more plants in. But if they've got that kind of large amount of soil, you get less blossom end rot, which is where from irregular watering the tomato at the end goes brown. So just by having a larger body of soil, we should be able to kind of alleviate those problems. They're going to be double height. So normally if you were going to plant things into the ground in a polytunnel, you would just like dig straight down. But the reason that we've actually got the polytunnel on this side of the allotment and the chicken house and the other shed is that running along this side of the allotment is trees which are bordering a school, and their roots are completely in this soil. I mean, it's just bone dry, and it would be completely pointless. So we are going for weed-proof matting on the bottom, and then building a double height raised bed inside that's going to be in a sort of a U shape to go around the inside of here. So I am just going to measure that up now and get ready to cut it, really. This is my trusty little allotment tape measure. It's about the same age as I am. it is Saturday. I sort of had it planned out that I was going to be doing some stuff at home today because the weather was meant to be abysmal. We were meant to be having rain and thunderstorms for 2 days, but looking at it, it's not. It's quite sunny. It's pretty warm. So now I can't decide whether I'm going to do what I was originally going to do, which is to plan out the raised bed for inside the polytunnel, and because, as I said earlier, the wood has actually been delivered for that. I really need to get that sorted, but that's an indoor job, and now the weather's good. Oh, I don't know what to do, because I could also plant out my spinach seedlings into the rows between the direct sown spinach that I did last week. But I really should plan out how to cut that wood up. Yeah, all right, I'm going to do the wood today. I'm going to start off just by drawing out my lengths. My main challenge that I've got here is that I have got 12 boards, which I know are long enough. These are the ones I'm using, decking boards. It's the same boards that I've used to make the rest of the beds on the plot. They're kind of ridged on one side and then relatively flat on the other. But my main challenge is, how do I get all of this shape out of the 12 boards? I don't have a massive amount to spare, so I've just got to be a bit careful about how I cut them up. The two at the back, the C and D on there, I don't know how long they're going to be at the moment, because I'm going to make them out of 2 lengths, and it will be whatever's left over from the rest. So how I'm going to do it is, I've got my 12 boards, and my longest length I'll just write down one side, because I know that's the most, and then I can fit in the rest of the lengths. Each board is 2 meters 40 long, so as long as none of that adds up to 2 meters 40, I should be fine. And there we have it. I thought I'd filmed chopping them all up, but the camera had run out of battery, so I'm afraid you just have to believe me. They're all numbered, ready to take up to the plot tomorrow, and ready for assembly. Good morning, it is Sunday. I managed to get all the wood chopped up yesterday, and see it is all chopped up there, ready to go. And so this morning I'm just going to start putting it together. It's about 12 o'clock and we'll see how far I get today with this. Well, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's strong, and it's giving us a massive amount of growing space, both for the summer crops like the tomatoes and peppers and chilies and aubergines, as well as winter stuff. We're hoping to grow a lot of salad crops and spinach there in the winter.
A bit difficult over there, but I'm just put a board along the top and kneel. Tidy up time now.
Okay, it is Monday afternoon. We've got another gloriously sunny day, but it is pretty windy outside, which means that every time I try and film, the camera's falling over. So I'm just going to talk to you in the greenhouse for the time being. We're a bit sheltered in here, but it is absolutely boiling, so forgive me if I faint. I I don't know if you remember in the last week's vlog, I sowed a whole load of spinach and chard seeds straight into the beds. And I mentioned that I was going to contrast growing them direct sown to growing them started off in plugs. Well, these are my plugs. They've been in here about 6 weeks, maybe 7. I've got 8 varieties, and I've got 1 spinach variety at home, which is a tree spinach, which I've never grown before, but we'll see how that goes. I have here a plain white chard, bright lights chard, which is the one with all the multicoloured stems, perpetual spinach, which is a cut and come again jobby, Medina and Manopa, 2 types of spinach I've never grown before, but they look pretty nice. There's also the Bietta, which is the very thin stemmed chard. There is the Americana spinach, which if you've seen on my Instagram posts, I'm quite obsessed with these fantastic, beautiful round leaves of theirs. And then I've also got the Ford Hook Giant. So I'm going to be putting these in today. Yeah, better get on with it really. So these spinach seeds have quite a lot of space between their first leaves and the root system, so I'm going to bury them up to that point. The spinach seeds, you get a single seedling for each seed you plant in, but the chard seeds are much more like beetroot. They have multiple seeds on the same pod that you're sowing, and so you tend to get sort of naturally multi-sown plants. I'm going to plant some of these just as they are in these sort of groups of 3, and I'm going to split some up and we'll see what happens. Well, we got them in. There's a few gaps. I haven't decided whether I'm going to plant some more in them or not yet, or I might just use the space for lettuces and radishes and quick things like that. I have potted up the ones that I didn't have space for, and put them just in the greenhouse to see what happens. I'll probably put them in pots at home. But that's them in, and I will keep you informed as to the comparison. Actually, I do need to just show you that some of the ones we planted the other day are coming up. They're very small. Well, I'm back home. Really pleased I got the spinach and the chard in the ground today. They were really struggling in those tiny little seed trays. Just can't keep them watered enough with that tiny amount of soil. They dry out in an instant, so they should be much happier in the ground. The only other thing I've got to do on the spinach front is pot up these. Aren't they pretty? They're really gorgeous. I've got to pot them up. That is the tree spinach, not really a relation of normal spinach or chard, in fact. Totally different thing. Apparently they get to a metre tall or so and produce masses of leaves that you kind of just, you pick them, come again kind of crop, you know, like a perpetual spinach. I've got about 25 seedlings there. There's no way I need 25 metre tall spinach shrubs. I don't need a hedge. So normally if I've got excess seedlings or whatever, there's plenty of people on the allotment to take them and we do a bit of an exchange, but obviously that's slightly more difficult now, so I'll ask around and see if anybody needs any on WhatsApp, and then just put the rest of them at the top of the gate, I suppose, and see if anybody wants them. I've never grown them before actually, so I don't know what they're going to be like. Bit of a gamble. We'll see. I'm quite pleased with what's happened this week actually. Really pleased with the raised bed for the polytunnel. Hopefully next week I'm going to get the polythene cover on the outside of it. That would be really fantastic because we've got these really huge tomatoes. I mean, this is one of the shorter ones, but they're really coming along. They look fantastic. They need to go in the poly house really, but obviously today it was way too windy. There was no way that was going to happen. So yeah, hopefully next week I'll get that done. But it's been a pretty productive week. If you enjoyed last week's, and you haven't subscribed already, please do. These vlogs are coming out weekly on a Tuesday afternoon. So I'm running them Tuesday to Tuesday. Just having a look at what I'm doing really. Gives me a bit of structure to my life in this kind of strange molasses that I'm living in at the moment with no job and like no difference between a Sunday and a Wednesday. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, do subscribe and drop me a note below. I really enjoy reading your comments. It's a really nice kind of way to engage with what people think of the videos. And also come and find me on Instagram. I am at _plot37. Always happy to have a conversation over there. And I will see you over there in the meantime. So until next Tuesday, ta-ra!